All right, strap in, everyone, because today we're going deep on large language models.
LLMs, for those in the know.
Right, LLMs, but with a twist.
A linguistic twist.
You could say that. We're looking at their multilingual capabilities.
Now, maybe we should say potential capabilities.
Good point.
It really makes you think, like, can an LLM that can translate a phrase book actually understand the nuances of a language?
That's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
But we've got some pretty hardcore research papers to guide us.
Right from academia.
Charts, tables, the whole shebang.
Don't worry, we'll break it all down, make it fun.
And you know what's interesting is that researchers are approaching this multilingual question from all different angles.
Like what? Give us an example.
Well, one study that really caught my eye, it used something called code switching.
Code switching.
Yeah, code switching to see if it actually triggers specific cultural knowledge in these LLMs.
Okay, so for those of us who haven't spent, years studying linguistics, break down code switching for us.
Sure. Imagine you're talking about, let's say, Korean history.
Okay.
But you throw in some Korean terms here and there.
Gotcha.
Now, the question is, does that actually change how an LLM understands the topic?
Like it's accessing a whole different knowledge base.
Exactly. It's about more than just knowing the words. It's about knowing when and how to use them.
Ah, like a native speaker.
Precisely.
That's fascinating.
And the researchers, they actually used this this data set with thousands of questions about Korean culture.
Okay.
And these questions were both in, pure English and in this code switch style.
Interesting.
And get this, the LLMs often performed better when they were given the questions with that mixed language.
Hold on. So you're telling me that by, sprinkling in a few Korean terms, the LLM actually got better at understanding Korean culture?
It really is quite surprising, isn't it?
That's wild.
Yeah, and it kind of suggests that this code switching, it might act as a sort of knowledge switch for the LLM.
A knowledge switch.
Yeah, like it's allowing it to tap into this deeper well of understanding about the language and the culture.
It's like unlocking a secret level of knowledge or something.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, my mind is officially blown.
But it also raises a really interesting question.
Which is?
Well, if an LLM can get more accurate by using this code switching,
right,
what does that say about its performance when it's just using one language?
Yeah, good point.
So that's something the researchers looked into as well.
And what did they find?
Well, it turns out that the LLMs that were already good at understanding Korean, on its own, those also did the best with that code-switched text.
So it's not like code switching is this, magic bullet or a shortcut.
Right, exactly.
The LLM still needs to have that solid foundation in the language first.
Absolutely. It has to have that depth of understanding.
It's like the difference between, knowing a few phrases from a travel guide.
Yeah.
And actually being able to have a real conversation with someone who lives there.
A perfect analogy.
Okay, so we've talked about code switching.
Right.
But I know there was another study that looked at a very different challenge. Teaching LLMs extremely rare languages.
Oh, yeah, that one was fascinating.
I'm talking about Voro, Livonian, Komi.
Languages with hardly any data available.
Talk about a challenge.
It really is, because, it's one thing to teach an LLM Spanish or French.
Right. Tons of resources for those.
Books, websites, you name it.
But these low-resource languages, that's a whole other beast.
It is, and the researchers, they had to get super creative.
Give us the rundown.
Well, they were, scraping websites, piecing together whatever little bits of text they could find.
Talk about dedication.
They even had to translate existing training data sets.
Just to give the LLM anything to work with.
It really highlights how much work goes into making AI truly inclusive.
And accessible to all languages, not just the popular ones.
Exactly. It's a huge task.
And they didn't stop at just teaching the LLM the basics of the language.
No, they took it a step further.
Lay it on us.
They actually created this the special test.
A test.
Yeah, to see how well the LLM could actually hold a conversation in these rare languages.
Like back and forth, multiple turns.
Exactly, because that's how we use language in the real world.
It's not just about, spitting out grammatically correct sentences.
It's about understanding the context, responding appropriately.
Actually communicating.
That's the key.
So what happened? Did the LLM pass the test? Was all that effort worth it?
Well, even with all that ingenuity, the LLM still struggled with certain tasks.
Really?
It's a good reminder that we're still in the early stages of this whole multilingual AI thing.
Even with the cutting-edge research.
Right. There's still a long way to go.
It seems like we're hitting some kind of linguistic wall with these LLMs.
Oh, wow.
Like they can translate, they can learn new languages, but can they really truly understand them on a deeper level?
That is the million-dollar question.
It is.
And it actually leads us to another study that looked at this idea of understanding in a very specific way. Ooh, tell me more.
This one focused on something that seems pretty simple on the surface, extracting author names from news articles.
Author names. Okay, I'm listening.
But it gets tricky when you start dealing with different languages and writing styles.
I can imagine.
So they tested 5 different software packages designed for this very task.
Wow, 5.
And they even built their own custom model.
Dedicated researchers. So what did they find?
Well, the results were, let's just say, all over the place.
Like inconsistent.
Exactly. Performance varied wildly depending on the language.
And was there a clear winner?
Nope. No single tool came out on top across the board.
So even for a task that seems relatively straightforward, multilingualism throws a wrench in the works.
It really does.
Wow.
And to make things even more complicated, some of the tools were only designed to work with, like English or a handful of other major languages.
Ah, so it's not just about building tools that can handle multiple languages.
Right.
It's about making sure they do so with the same level of accuracy and effectiveness across the board. Exactly, and that's something we still need to work on.
Absolutely.
There's definitely a bias towards English and high-resource languages in the AI field.
It's like the rest of the world's languages are playing catch-up.
It's a good analogy.
A bit disheartening, though.
It is, but it's important to acknowledge these challenges.
So, where do we go from here?
Well, one of the most promising areas of research is actually using LLMs to improve the quality of data used for training other AI models.
Wait, so we're talking about LLMs helping to create better AI.
Exactly. It's like AI inception. And that's what we'll dive into in the next part of our deep dive.
Can't wait. This is getting good.
It is, so stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive,
where we're exploring the multilingual maze of LLMs.
We've seen how they handle code switching,
Tackle those rare languages.
and even trip up on seemingly simple tasks.
Right. It's been quite a journey so far.
But now, let's shift gears a bit.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Let's talk about how LLMs might actually help us create better AI.
Whoa, hold on. LLMs building better LLMs. Is that even possible?
It's called rephrasing.
Rephrasing, okay.
Picture this. You've got a massive data set used to train LLMs.
Mountains of text.
Exactly. And then you use another LLM to rewrite it, but in different ways.
So it's like taking the same story and telling it from different perspectives.
You're getting it. Or translating it into different languages and back again.
Ah, I see.
The goal is to introduce variation.
Variety is the spice of life, right?
And for LLMs, too. It helps them generalize better.
So they don't get stuck in a rut, linguistically speaking.
Exactly. It's like giving them a more diverse diet of language.
Makes sense, but wouldn't that just create a jumbled mess of text?
That's a valid concern.
How can we ensure that the rephrased data is actually better?
Well, that's where the researchers got really clever.
Okay, tell me more.
They actually experimented with different levels of quality in the rephrasing process.
Quality how?
Some prompts led to more creative, abstract rewrites.
While others were more straightforward, factual.
You got it. It's like having different writing styles.
Some more human-like, others more machine-like.
Precisely. And what they found was fascinating.
I bet. So which approach worked best?
The best results came from mixing the original data with the rephrased data.
A blend of the old and the new.
Exactly. Like adding spices to a recipe.
So a linguistic cocktail, if you will.
And the LLMs trained on this mixed data, they actually performed better on those standard benchmark tests.
No way. So they were actually smarter after being fed this blend of original and rephrased text.
They were. They showed significant improvements in tasks like question answering, text summarization.
It's like they gained a deeper understanding of the underlying concepts.
Not just the surface-level words.
That's incredible.
It really is.
It's like AI helping to bootstrap even more powerful AI.
It's a fascinating concept, this virtuous cycle of learning.
And this approach wasn't limited to just English, right?
You're right. The researchers also replicated it in German, Spanish, and Italian.
Wow, so multilingual AI improvement across the board.
Exactly.
This is blowing my mind, but it also makes me wonder,
What's that?
if we can use LLMs to improve other LLMs, where does it stop? Is there a limit to how much AI can bootstrap itself?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And it's something that philosophers and computer scientists are grappling with right now.
Big questions indeed.
But this research also challenged another assumption in the AI world.
Oh, which one?
The idea that bigger is always better.
Wait, what? I thought the whole point of LLMs was to build these massive models with trillions of parameters.
You're right, that's been the trend.
So what changed?
Well, this study actually found that sometimes using a smaller LLM for that rephrasing process actually led to better performance in the final LLM.
Hold on, a smaller LLM outperforming its larger cousin.
It seems counterintuitive, but that's what the data suggests.
So it's not just about brute force, it's about something else.
It's about finesse, the complexity and creativity of that rephrasing process.
That's a huge insight.
It challenges that bigger is better mentality that's been so prevalent in AI.
Maybe it's time we start thinking about quality over quantity when it comes to these models.
I think so, and this research really underscores the importance of experimentation.
Finding the right tool for the job.
Not just throwing more computing power at a problem.
It's about understanding language, how LLMs can actually help each other learn.
You've got it.
This all sounds incredibly promising, but it also begs the question.
What question is that?
Where does this leave us humans in all of this?
The age-old question.
Are we just building these super intelligent LLMs to eventually replace us?
That's the stuff of science fiction, isn't it?
It is, but it's a valid concern.
It is, but it's important to remember that LLMs, even those that can improve other AIs, are still tools.
Tools that we control.
Exactly. Tools that we can use to augment our abilities, not necessarily replace them.
Like an extension of our own intelligence.
Precisely. They can help us analyze data, generate ideas, automate tasks.
Even improve the development of other AIs, as we've seen.
But they still rely on us, on human ingenuity, to guide them.
To set their goals, interpret their output.
It's not about human versus machine.
It's about finding the right synergy, the right partnership.
Working together to achieve things neither could do alone.
That's a great way to put it.
And this actually brings us to another fascinating frontier.
Oh, Puta.
The ability of LLMs to understand not just human languages.
But the languages of machines? Wait, hold on. LLMs can write software.
It might sound futuristic, but it's becoming a reality.
This is getting good.
And as you might have guessed, multilingual capabilities are playing a huge role here as well.
I'm all ears. Tell me everything. Okay, so last time we left off with this mind-blowing idea.
LLM's writing software.
Right. Code writing AI. It's wild.
It really is a potential game changer and maybe even more impactful than we realize right now.
I mean, I'm still wrapping my head around it.
Think about it, code. It's a language, right?
Yeah, with its own syntax and rules and all that.
Exactly. And just like human languages, you can write and understand it in different ways.
So are you saying that a multilingual LLM could potentially, understand code written in multiple programming languages?
That's the idea. It could be huge for software development.
No kidding.
Imagine developers collaborating on projects, and it doesn't even matter what language they prefer.
That would be amazing.
Or translating code comments and documentation.
Making software accessible to more people around the world.
Exactly.
Okay, but let's back up for a sec.
Sure.
How do these code writing LLMs actually work?
Well, researchers have been training them on massive data sets of code.
Exposing them to all sorts of programming languages and styles.
And what's interesting is that we're starting to see similar patterns of learning.
Like what?
Like those we see with natural languages.
You mean like the code switching thing we talked about earlier?
Exactly.
Could that actually apply to code too?
It's possible. Imagine an LLM that can understand code that uses both Python and Java.
Switching back and forth depending on the task.
That kind of flexibility, it's emerging.
That's incredible. Okay, but let's be real. How good are these code writing LLMs really?
Well, researchers have created these specialized tests.
To put them through their paces.
Exactly, focusing on things like code completion, error detection.
And how does it do?
The results, as with a lot of AI stuff, are mixed.
So some LLMs are coding rock stars, others not so much.
Pretty much, and one big factor seems to be context.
Context, how so?
Well, just like with us, understanding code is easier when you see the bigger picture.
You need the full story.
Right, so giving an LLM access to not just the current line of code,
but the surrounding files, project structure.
exactly, that can really improve performance.
And like giving a detective all the clues.
Exactly. And just like we saw with natural language processing, fine-tuning is key.
Training them on code-specific data sets.
Giving them clear examples and instructions.
That makes sense.
So it's a combination of things.
Multilingual capabilities, context, fine-tuning.
It's like a recipe for building those powerful code writing AIs.
So cool. And I imagine as research progresses, we'll see even more amazing things from these LLMs.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time to be watching this all unfold.
This whole deep dive has been incredible, really.
We've covered a lot of ground.
From understanding human languages to generating them to now this whole code writing thing.
And while there's still those limitations
and challenges, definitely, the progress is amazing.
Well, the future of AI is happening right now, and it's multilingual.
And it's exciting.
Well, this topic could keep us going for hours, but I think we're about out of time.
Always more to explore.
A huge thank you to you for taking us on this deep dive.
My pleasure. Always happy to talk about this stuff.
And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of language and AI.
Until next time.
Keep those minds curious.